next session, we're going to hear from David Raitt from NEAR, who's going to talk about probabilistic or deterministic data and how data doesn't need to be difficult. And for those of you who are following a lot of the industry's discussions at the moment, particularly on Twitter, you might be hearing about the metaverse endlessly. We're going to hear about the nearverse today. So I'll hand over to David. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Let me just get. Can everybody see? Yeah.
No, it's not up, David.
Not working. Let's see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect. Thank you, Guy. Hi, I'm David from NEAR. I'm the GM of Marketing Solutions, and so I work with leading publishers and brands across Australia to help them make more of their data to deliver better experience for their advertisers. At NEAR, we are the world leader in human mobility data. And what that means is that we help connect people to places and to products. We're nearly over 10 years old and have powered some of the major publishers and broadcasters in Australia. In addition to that, we help businesses that have operational needs, and so we wear two hats. We help marketers identify, enrich, and attribute audience value, and we also help op leaders understand their category, their consumers, and even their competitors better. So a typical request that we may get from a marketer will be, help me enrich my audience segments with your identity graph to help me scale my audience. While operationally, we may be hired to support a state's COVID response with day-to-day trends on dwell time, etc. by LGA. So two hats to the same business. If we look at some of the key trends that we're seeing in Australia, and also, of course, these are global trends as well. We're seeing a couple of big categories and challenges. We're in the midst of a walled garden policy war, where there's the phasing out of third-party cookies. In addition to that, if you look at the implications that could mean is with less data, it's going to be harder for local players to compete with some of the global walled gardens in order to deliver the best possible consumer experiences. In addition to that, there's an identity crisis with some of the bigger platforms phasing out IDFA, the ability to use mobile data to deliver a good experience. The challenges that we've got now within the market is there's multiple solutions within persistent IDs, and they all have sort of competing values. In addition to that, we've had the joy of COVID for the last 18 to 20 months, which has created basically a considerable shift on how consumers are either behaving online or behaving in the real world, making it harder for advertisers to think about how they can deliver them the best possible experience and get their offers out to them. But what we're hearing from our colleagues within the agency community is that they're all already seeking out alternatives in order to make help connect and bridge those gaps. If we look further, we're starting to see that progressive brands are essentially looking at three things in order to create and bridge that gap. They're essentially building their own data lake, so they're using their existing first-party data. They're also, and when they're doing that in a proficient way, they're building up that unique identity within the business to ensure that their users get a great experience regardless of the platform they're on. In addition to that, they're able to join up the internal data to give them the best possible experience from an office perspective. And of course, that essentially boils down to a place where the personal experiences that we've had for the last 20 years that has got better and better continues to scale and become open to everybody, and not just something that can be done by a handful of companies based in California. And so when we talk with our colleagues within the wider advertising community, they don't believe that a deterministic solution on its own, where advertisers and brands and publishers use their own first-party data, will be able to bridge that gap from a scale perspective. And so they're looking at ways to ensure that they're using probabilistic data to give them the best possible experience, but also make sure that they're getting that scale. And so it's really important that advertisers start to think about that and make sure that they're at least asking questions internally. At NEAR, we believe that you don't have to choose between probabilistic or deterministic, and that with NEAR, you can work with us to do both. At NEAR, what we do is we aggregate the best real-world signals that are available, and we overlay that with the online signals that we get working with some of the leading publishers and leading providers across the world. What that's allowed us to do is create our own persistent ID that essentially works with completely anonymized data, consent-based data. We operate in California and also in Europe that operate to the highest standards of data privacy, and that's really important to us. So we only work with consent-based data, and it should be as easy to opt out as it is to opt in, and those are the standards that we expect of the partners that we work with. If we look deeper into our persistent ID, when we do a call to a user and get a null ID, we pull upon multiple data sets to create that persistent ID. And here you can see some of the areas that we would pull upon in order to pull that together to ensure that we can get that match. In Australia, this has allowed us to build up an identity graph that is over 16 million and growing each month. And what that allows us to do is to offer our customers the level of scale that they need in order to compete within a highly competitive category. And so typically, if you were to work with a multiple touchpoint solution and work with someone to help you onboard your data, someone to help enrich it, a DMP to push that out, those audience out to your DSP, and then a measurement partner to attribute value at each point, you could get results between 5 and 10% increase on your match rate. But we don't want that. We want a lot more. And so with NEAR, what we're seeing within Australia are match rates that add an increment to at least 30% on whatever the publisher or the advertiser is currently working with. So when you work with NEAR, you get the ability to onboard, to match, to enrich, activate, and measure. And we believe that that is the way in which the industry is going to go. So when you work with people such as ourselves, what you get is the chance to test and iterate and scale your identity solution. You get to emerge the best data available in online and offline data sets to activate an audience, to identify an audience, authenticate that audience, to make sure that you've got that match so that you can push those segments out to get the best possible experience and the scale that's required to compete. And then in addition to that, you can attribute that. We have an attribution service within our business that allows you to measure both our data versus your own and overlay that with either footfall reports, or in addition to that, make sure that you're looking at areas such as offline attribution, etc. So with NEAR, you get a 16 million user base of identity graph. It helps you identify your high value audiences. You can onboard your first party data if you're a publisher in this use case. And then in addition to that, it allows you to enrich your audience segments. We'd love to have conversations with you out there and understand that everyone's coming at this challenge from a different way. We encourage you to test our methodology in whatever identity solution that you're using currently, or whatever audience stack that you're working with. We can work with anybody, and we'd love to test and help you grow your audience to get that scale so that you can compete with the biggest providers in the planet. Thank you. And I know that I've gone very quickly and it's a big topic. And so here's my email address. I'd love to hear from you. And I look forward to hearing how things go in the panel next. So I'm going to pass to the panel guy, Guy.
Hey, thanks, David. Thanks for that. It's always great to hear directly from those clients in terms of how they're thinking and what the solutions that they're looking at.
Thank you.